Kyle here from All Media Reviews. I'm here to, if I have enough time to do it, hopefully I can, otherwise I'm going to have to do it tomorrow. But try to do the big, or not so big, Minnesota progressive rock, art rock, post-rock, progressive metal, progressive folk, whatever you want to call it, list that I've made, and it's certainly not definitive. I might do more in depth at some other point. I will confess before I get into it real quickly here, though, with this list, it's a list of 25 plus albums countdown, but it's not necessarily like the 25, like if I chose my favorite 25 albums of all time. The problem is with Minnesota, the music, I'm from Minnesota, I lived here my whole life, and while we have a lot of great music that came from here, not a lot of progressive rock has origins even in the US here, but there's some that people don't know of. Anyway, being a progressive rock fan, it's like it was always music from other places around the country or around other parts of the world, of course. But what I'm trying to get at is I find that I have about 3 to 4 core favorite artists, bands, so there's more than just, they're both, that I could just list their whole catalog or just rank their whole, kind of like what Jordan Blum just did with the 4 big prog metal, including Opeth and Putting the Bear to Me. He just ranked all 4 of their catalogs between all of them, mixed in. But I'd rather just have a variety, so I just chose one record really from each artist. It's a couple of people that are in here twice, and so, all right, let me just get into it. I'm going to show some stuff that didn't make it first real quickly, that I was kind of splitting hairs between the debut album. I better be careful here. The debut album from Media Addicts didn't make it, but I love it. Debut album or the full-length album from Best Friends Forever. The second album from Condition Response, In Flagrante Delicto. The second album from Brute Heart, called Lonely Hunter, which I have on vinyl too, actually. And then 3 or 4 biggies. The debut album from the Galactic Cowboy Orchestra, Looking for a Little Strange. The last album from Bryce Plays Drum, PROG from 2014. And the debut album from Bryce Plays Drums, I Laugh at Your Greener Pastures, 1 through 4. And then Greg Harrigan's solo debut album, It Plays Me. And Dean McGraw's Red Planet, with Bill Carruthers. Didn't make the list, so I just choose one, but, certainly among my favorites. There's some stuff I'm not even remembering on there, so. Alright, so let's just get into this. So, number 20, in effect, did I pull up the, I don't know if I pulled up the last, I didn't, did I? Shoot. Oh, there it is, yeah, okay, so this is supposed to be on the list, but this would be at the very end. Yeah, oops, I don't know what that's doing here. Yeah, so I guess I'd put down, no, I'll go with these 3 first. These were kind of like at the end, like 28, 27, 26 are tied for 26, in effect. The Royal Veil, I believe it's called the Ocean, I think King of the Ocean, their debut album. It's like progressive sludge metal, kind of with grunge elements. Cool stuff from Steve, I forget his last name, Bergwitz. Doesn't live here anymore in Minnesota, but came out in like I want to say it was 2015 maybe. 2014, 2013, it was maybe 2013. The debut and the only release from local Dredge fans that I really got connected with, the guys in Between Two Skies, Thousand Conscious Moments. It was like 2007 or 2008, 2009. It was like late 2000s, I think. And then the guys in Bryce Plays Drums have their other project, the Dangle Trio. And I actually don't know if I'd choose this one. This is the debut album, Rise and Shine, from 2014. It's more, there's some prog elements, but it's really more of like a kind of twangy, folky, folk rock, you call it anyway. Alright, so, and then I got, okay, so number 20, that was up to 20, number 26 actually, Blue Canoe, which I talked about in one of the 80, what year this was, 85 video. Psychic rock it sounds like music from the 70s, but it was in the mid-80s, but anyway. Decent record, although my friend, I think, talked it up a little more than I would. I mean, it's sort of like ELP, or sort of like like more psych, I guess you could say, like more Wishbone Ashes, like Little Floyd, but you know, there's some other bands like Magellan Music and that have stuff I haven't listened to in a long time. I didn't include on this list that maybe in a later time I will. So so that's 20, in effect 26. So the other records were tied for 27th. So number 25, I have Best Friends Forever's debut EP, I believe it is. And they're not really prog in the truest sense. They're kind of Zappa-ish. And it features, there's like 2 songs that are super funny in it called, I don't have the track list here. Oh yeah, I remember that. One's about Abraham Lincoln, and one's talking about Orlando Bloom. That's what I think. I mean, it's mostly a girl group, but they're quirky, and it's half humor, and the musicianship's actually pretty good in it. But anyway, this came out mid-2000s. I heard about it on Radio K. Radio K used to play these guys all the time, but anyway. Number 25. Number 24, I have Brute Heart, another female-led group. 2 of the 3 members I know are debut album Brass Beads from, it was like 2012, something like that. Early 2010s, I think. It was 2010. Kind of like a Jefferson Airplane element to their sound, among others. They don't really have guitar. They feature like violin, and you know, they have the second round Lonely Hunter is maybe more polished production-wise, but I think the songs I liked a little more on this one, but they're pretty close. But anyway, it's art rock of a sort. You could psychedelic art rock with female harmonies and stuff like that. So number 24, Brute Heart, Brass Beads. I mean, I was recommended them because I love Warpaint, and you know, I can see that appeal, the psych element to some degree, though they're a lot different in a lot of ways than Warpaint. So I have this facing here. So number 24, A Whisper in the Noise. I have their debut album. It's titled let's see here, Through the Ides of March, which I think is like a Shakespeare reference or something like that. Or A Whisper in the Noise got kind of popular. The Dredge fans love them. They're kind of post-rock-ish. They use samples. I remember hearing them, the piano arrangements and the samples, on Radio K. They have other records. They caught on, and I didn't really follow their career after this record. But this came out like in 2002, 2003. But yeah, I've always liked it. I mean, the vocals sounds a little bit like Bono, if I'm not mistaken, but it's kind of melancholy music. It's sort of atmospheric. It's post-rock, you could say. I mean, which is a sort of a related genre to prog and art rock, so, of course. So that's number 23. Number 22, I swear I had a copy of this, a physical copy, but I don't know where it went. The band called Words for Penga. They're sort of a post-metal band. Their album, that was their only album they put out, called Pros, from like 2015. It was weird because one of the members from Words for Panga literally lived down the block from me, from when I was living with my my wife. So maybe it was like 2017. I can't remember what year it was. It was mid to late 2010s, but I don't know if they're still around, unfortunately. But it was a good debut album. You know, they had dynamics. It was heavy at points, but they had like samples and stuff. And anyway, Words for Panga, number 22 for Pros. Number 21. Get rid of this. Let's get this out of the way. Going with Trent Romans with Aware, which is more of like naturally like a blues rock record. I saw him open for the Galactic Cowboy Orchestra, and I really liked him. He's done some music since, and I haven't really like followed along, but I really liked this debut record. Yeah, it's kind of progressive blues rock. Reminded me a little bit of like Eric Cerna, who used to be with the Deer Hunter, went off and did his solo project, that Killing Floor project. Great, kind of heavy, you know, grindy, you know, great atmospheric riffs, and it's blues rock, you know. This came out, I wish I should have all the years, on New Folk Records, because it was on the same label with Lato and Wright and Galactic Cowboy Orchestra. It doesn't say the year on here. I want to say this was like 2012 or 2013. It was about 10 years ago, but anyway, I need to hear more of his music, actually, and I only saw him live the one time, unfortunately. But Trent Romans with Aware, number 21. Number 20, this band, I know they had a connection with, I want to say it was either Between Two Skies or, I forget which band it was. The band called Empires. There's another band from Chicago called Empires. It's a different band who opened for the Deer Hunter once, I want to say. We're on the bill with them. But this band is like a post-metal band, and I can't really tell you more about my origin, my experience. I'd have to look at my blog really, but I remember really liking this album and liking this. And this is when I was really into Russian Circles and Shelter Red, the post metal stuff, Long Distance Calling. This was in that same kind of vein. Really atmospheric, heavy riffs. Kind of a little bit like Word for Penga, but Word for Penga was a little more metal. This is more of the I guess you could call it heavy post rock, post. I don't know. Anyway, Empires. The album's called Patience in the Ice. Something like that. I should have it down here. No, Through Trials and Tribulations Come Triumphs. It's weird because the case doesn't say that. Oh, weird. This isn't even the right CD. It's good to know. I have a copy of the Mars Volta in here. Anyway, Empires. Through Trial and Tribulation Comes Triumph, number 20. Number 19, I have a copy somewhere. I interviewed this band on the radio in KFEI back in the year 2000. They're called Grace Point. Their debut album, Science of Discontent. They came out with a comeback record about 4 or 5 years ago, which is pretty good, but I really like that first one. They use a lot of syncopation, very influenced by like Cynic. It's like, I would call it technical metal, progressive technical metal. I wouldn't call it death metal. I wouldn't call it traditional prog metal like Dream Theater. They were more interested in the riffs and the sort of blend between the two guitarists and the bass and the drum syncopations. But they were a really technical band and really well composed record. That's the album Science of Discontent. Although it wasn't catchy, so I wasn't obsessed with it. But I liked it. And again, it was cool to interview them on the radio many years ago. Grace Point, Science of Discontent. In fact, my friend Aaron Austin may have played with them at one point. He was another band called Sacred Ground Beef, I remember. But I can't remember. Yeah, the drum. That was the band that my friend Sam was into. I should remember this, but I don't remember at this point. Number 18, a band that I was just revisiting today. One of the first local bands I ever got into. The band Pavlov's Dog, which later changed their name to Condition Response. Of course, there's a band from the 70s called Pavlov's Dog, which was a prog band, but this is a different band. This band, they later changed, their second album called themselves Condition Response. The name of this debut album was called Condition Response, and actually Pavlov's Dog and Condition Response basically mean the same thing, but this came out in 1996. I have a phone number I wrote on it. That's how you need, right? Someone at the gig. I saw them. They covered, because they sound a lot like Queensryche at times. They covered Dream Theater and Queensryche, and then of all bands, Rat. They actually may have opened for Rat. It was kind of like progressive hair metal. I mean, it was mid-90s. Still, the hair metal stuff was still somewhat influential with metal and Dream Theater especially, and Extreme, that kind of stuff. But tracks like Deep Inside and Winter. The singer's got a really good voice. Very soaring. I mean, you can be influenced by like bands like Europe and Halloween and Scorpions, that kind of thing. But great dynamics. Winter being from Minnesota fit, Father Eyes, Lies in the Dark. When I was on KFI the early days, I played this a few different times, and I also interviewed them. I interviewed them in person. I remember at like a area like get together, like if they were living in my neighborhood in Egan, I remember, and then I think I recorded and put it on the radio. But yeah, they were cool. Condition Response. They had an EP in 2003 that I've never heard. But the follow up when they changed their name to Condition Response, this was Pavlov's Dog. Was about as good. I showed it when I was telling the honorable mentions. It's a little more, like the production's better on it. I think I have more nostalgia for this album from the mid-90s, because the follow-up came out in 99, but anyway. Pavlov's Dog's Condition Response, number 18. Number 17, an album just from last year, and they've changed their name, but this debut album at the time, the band was called Scalise. Before We Dry Up. Kind of art rock-ish. They used some extra instrumentation like horns at points. Epic record, 18 tracks. It was in my top like 25, 30 records from last year. They're now called something else. It's like, I forget. It's Secondhand Dan is the new name of this band. I don't know if it's better than Scalise. I guess it's more, you can find it easier, but at the same time you'll get confused at them. This Scalise was more distinct, but yeah, I mean, they had two different singers. There's a couple songs in here that totally like build to something really great. I think the last, She's Gonna Kill You, and there's one part of that song that reminds me of Marillion actually. But yeah, they opened for the Family Crest, another progressive rock band, so makes sense. But anyway, Scalise, Before We Dry Up, from Minnesota Prog List. Number 17. Number 16, now I'm totally guilty of never actually hearing this record, but just based on what I know about it and the people involved, it had to go on this list somewhere. And that's the album Us From Us. This came out in, I want to say 1990, maybe? 89. I didn't even have it on my 89 list, which is, you know, it's kind of sacrilege I'm putting on this list having not heard it. It's John Wright and Greg Harrigas and John DeSalvo from 89. And, you know, this and then the follow-up they did had a huge King Crimson influence. But, you know, I get my turntable up, I got to play it. You can't find anywhere online that I'm aware of, unless, you know. I have a CD here, though, of Greg Harrigas that he gave me right here when he first started playing locally in the mid-2000s again. He came back. It has some of the stuff from this and from the band product that followed it, I believe, right here. But, yeah, I mean, this is a beloved record from the people that know it, you know, and this is among Greg's and John Wright's best works. So, Us from Greg, you know, it's kind of, again, exactly because I'd have never put it on my turntable, and I don't have a CD or a download version of it, but I had to put it on here somewhere, otherwise it would, I'd feel like bad, like, you know, this is obvious. PROG in Minnesota, you know, so the next album, I don't have a physical copy. I don't think it was actually printed, but it's my friend who's now the drummer of, oh, I forget what, he's in a really well-known band, but band Ideologies, Charlie Engen. Charlie Engen's now the drummer of, he's with, oh man, like Slipknot. He's now with Scale the Summit. And no, Five Finger Death Punch. He's the Five Finger Death, Charlie Engen. But he had a project he put out when I think he made it when he was getting his master's degree. He's a drummer. I knew through the PROG forum, through Mike Portnoy's forum and drummers, called Ideology. That came out, it was like 2015, 2014, mid-2010s. I don't have I should have written the years on all this stuff. It's a really well-composed progressive metal album. That's the best way to put it. If I'm not mistaken, it's all instrumental. But, I mean, the year it came out, I really liked it. I haven't gone back to it. It was on Bandcamp, you know, but just from how I rated it on Rate Your Music and remembering how much I enjoyed it, it had to go on this list. So, Ideology, self-titled, album number 15. Number 14, Rising Side. Not really a band too active anymore that I'm aware of, but their debut album called Arrow, The Onus Key. Very Coheed and Cambria. They're all Coheed fans. It's a female singer, but a lot of great hooks on this record. Songs like Spell, Inciting Incident, The Tentrant Beast, and then The Telling of the Tower Hourglass, Volition, and Seeking Avalon is super catchy, but very hooky, very melodic, but also technical at times. The drummer's really good, Scotty Horry. Yeah, I was really excited for this band, Rising Side, when they came out. And unfortunately, things happened. Scotty's been doing drum clinics and stuff like that, and been traveling like all around the world. But yeah, it's a great debut album from Rising Side. Unfortunately, they're not. I don't know if they're ever going to do anything more, but an album I got a lot of mileage of back in the 2010s, the mid 2010s. So number 14, number 13, Mike Linden's, who was with the band. The Super Pilots, which the drummer from the Super Pilots now is with Childish Japes, you know, J.P. Bouvet, and played with Bentley and everything like that, or they had Bentley's singer on there. But anyway, this is under Mike Linden's name. I think that JP's probably on it. Yeah, he is, and Dave McKay. Basically, this is the members of Super Pilots under Mike Linden's name. But it's called Bubble and Squeak. This album came out, it was like 2012. Fantastic jazz rock. There's like a Return to Forever element. There's a song that reminds me of Marillion on here. Paper Planes 1, Kites, Paper Planes 2. It's jazzy, it's technical, but it's less is more. And it's, you know, fantastic musicianship. I mean, I kind of wish the Super Pilots had been under their name, but it basically is Super Pilots. But the thing is, he doesn't even live here anymore, but he was from here, and so was JP, so I kind of like to claim this as Minnesota music. So, you know, Bubble and Squeak from Mike Linden. Number 13. Number 12, well, I had to pick one album from bubblemath. And while the other two records, a lot of people probably prefer in some ways, I have to go with the first album, Such Fine Particles in the Universe. It has Beat Together, which is their pop hit. They kind of joke. I have the most nostalgia for this one. The other two records are good, but they're a little more crazy and out there than even I typically handle with some stuff. Yeah, I mean, it came out in 2002, I believe. It's kind of a classic among prog fans, of course. They're the one band that the prog scene always cites for here. Well, them and Galactic Cowboy Orchestra, you could say, that aren't from here. But the Dollhammer, there's a couple other tracks on here I've always liked. The track list, I'd have to take the shrink wrap off. I kind of always wanted to keep this in the shrink wrap, but whatever. So I ended up giving one of my copies away at a show to someone. I bought like multiple copies, but no, I mean, the guys at bubblemath I'm friends with, and I know Kai moved out of state. Blake's now in the Kind City and everything like that with Marshall Bolin. But I don't know. There's some other tracks on there. Some of the lyrics are kind of they're absurd, and there's a Zappa element. I know, like musically, some people compare them to Ekelin, which I get that the singer kind of sounds like the singer from Ekelin at points. But they're at times they're a little more heavy on the musicianship, although, again, Ekelin gets really busy at times too, but their drummer's a big Dream Theater fan, so anyway. Bubblemath, a lot of people know it, but I had to put it on the list somewhere. Number 12, one Bubblemath album at least, Such Fine Particles in the Universe, from 2002. So, number 11, I don't have any copies, I don't believe. You see their copies on vinyl frequently. I'm choosing the album, the debut album from Gypsy, and I listened to this the other day. You see their records frequently, and they're a somewhat renowned band, at least among, like, prog fans, classic rock and psychedelic rock fans, but they're always sort of second or third tier. They didn't get a lot of, like, they got some play, but I was pretty impressed by this. You think about it, it came out in 1970. What I hear is stuff like Yes and Styx and Wishbone Ash and Renaissance, but all those bands, I mean, Yes had been around and Genesis had been around, but like the jazz rock stuff hadn't really come to fruition either. Maybe they're listening to Miles Davis, but so they were kind of like in some ways ahead of those other bands, but they didn't get as famous. I haven't heard their other records. Again, they're vinyl you see, but it's always like $25, $35 a pop. But I need to spend more time. I've always wanted to. And they actually did move out to LA, but they recorded it and were from and formed in Minneapolis, Gypsy. This album came out in 1970. Gypsy Queen, Part 1 and 2. The ending, every track, like that 10-minute, almost 11-minute Dead and Gone, Hear My Loneliness, More Time, The Vision. This is a terrific record. When I redo my albums of the year from 1970, I wouldn't be surprised. I think I mentioned this. This will be on that list. It will be in the top 30 at least, maybe top 20. It's that good. I mean, I've slept on them. I'm pretty guilty of that. The only thing I'll say is the vocals, while they're good, they're not amazing. They're a little bit vanilla. I mean, the arrangements are very impressive, and there's great things to always listen to for the arrangement, the instrumental arrangements. But the vocals are just, they have some harmonies, but they don't have like a standout singer. I mean, they don't even have anyone as good as, it kind of reminds me of, but not as good as the guy from The Guess Who, Burton Cummings. But anyway. Gypsy, number 11, the self-titled from 1970. Number 10, another short-lived band. A lot of these bands are short-lived, unfortunately, but The Book of Right On, a weird title, of course, if I'm not mistaken. They were going to put out a second album, but all these songs about music. I saw this band on accident, really. I was going to see Jethro Tull and didn't get a ticket, and so I went to this instead. I went to go see Zebulon Pike, who I wanted to always like and I did not like, but this band was the opener, and they floored me. They had these two drummers doing this crazy busy work. Very kind of much like a more kind of technical but more ensemble-based version of Primus. There's a Primus element, but there's just, it's almost like not wall of sound, but like, take like the Family Crest or the Deer Hunter or like these bands with like 18 musicians. It's not 18 musicians. I don't want to say it was maybe only like maybe 9 or 10. And all the members had been in other bands. Unfortunately, they were short-lived. They were working on a second record. I'm not sure it ever happened. They had like an EP. I got a download for it, but I enjoyed this album from the get-go, and I was like totally excited for this band. I was thinking the Book of Right On was going to be like the next big thing in prog in Minnesota. Finally have a prog band to really champion, and then it didn't happen, of course. But this was a great record. So all these songs about music. I think it came out in like 2010 or 2011. It was late 2000s or early 2010s. So and I know the Book of Right On is like a name of a song by Sarah Jarosz or Joanna Newsom, because you do a Google and that's what comes up. And it's not anywhere. I don't think it's even on Bandcamp to stream, sadly. But I don't know. Maybe it's on SoundCloud or something. I just haven't found it, or YouTube perhaps. So number 9, I had to have one of their records, and they have like 5, 6 records, but one of John Wright's other project besides us. The Galactic Cowboy Orchestra, my favorite, probably, I might go to among all their records, the second record, All Out of Peaches, which has The Blaze, and they have a cover of a Lady Gaga song in here, but Paparazzi, that's the Lady Gaga song, but it's less is more. It's very like tight musicianship, a bluegrass element, a jazz fusion element. There's no vocals on it, but I know they had some vocals on some of their later records, but I felt like I loved their first record, but the second record was like a step up in a lot of ways from the compositions, the flow, the energy. Yeah, I mean, it finished in the mid-20s. When I redo whatever it was, 2011 or 2012 when this album came out, I think it was 2011. We'll see where it falls, but you know, they have like 3 or 4 outstanding records, but I guess if I had to pick one, I still go with All Out of Peaches from the Galactic Cowboy Orchestra. One of John Wright's several projects. His wife Lisi's in the band, and anyway. So number 9, number 8. So I had to have at least one. I think this is the only one I have, sadly. I mean, he's more of a live performer, but I had to have Dean McGraw in here. I'm going with the Red Planet album, Space Dust. And he does a bunch of covers on here, but he does very progressive arrangements of them. You know, between, let's see, he does The Lion Sleeps Tonight, of course, from, you know, made famous by Three Dog Night, I believe, but Little Wing from Hendrix, Africa from Toto. But then there's some original compositions, Dawn Star, Mazar Sharif. He uses some electric sitar. The drummer, Jay Epstein, is he's a mind-blowing drummer. He rivals Paul Vertigo in some ways. He's super precise, super busy. But yeah, this is my favorite Dean McGraw release, and from a guy he's not known for his studio recordings, but he's still done a lot. But I mean, this still stands out for being my favorite thing among one of my favorite musicians from Minnesota. So Dean McGraw's Red Planet, Space Dust, and it is a live album. But again, it's so fitting. Number 8, number 7. So this is my favorite record that Greg Harris has ever been involved with, that I've spent time with. His second solo record, Telluric Currents, which the band he was in was transitioned under that name, but it's like progressive ethnic folk rock, basically. Songs like Rama Be Good, which was named after, I think it's his dog or his cat maybe, but which that's the one that basically sounds like he does it live. It goes into Led Zeppelin's Four Sticks. He's playing a Greek bouzouki and everything like that. Sabir Khan song. A lot of great sort of percussive moments on this, but Uskadar, the Moth, he does a lot of tapping and stuff like that. There's a Crimson element to this. I mean, Greg's a big Crimson fan and a big Rush fan. But this album, I love the record before it and some of the other stuff. I just felt like more things came together, and the whole thing works beginning to end. Just the intricate playing. He has Troy Berg, I believe, on this, which is one of his partners. And John Wright from later on Wright and Galactic Cowboy Orchestra does play on this as well. So, Telluric Currents from Greg Harrigas from 2009 at number 7. Number 6. So maybe the best post-rock album that's ever come to Minnesota. I don't know. Nomia's Iron and Rust from 2014, their debut full-length album. Now, the EP that they'd released previously was fantastic as well, but this is like taking Tool and be better than Tool. There's no vocals on this. It's pretty much all instrumental, but the whole thing flows. You know, I'd put this up there with Long Distance Calling and Russian Circles as among the best sort of heavy post-rock or post-metal albums of the last 20 years. But yeah, 2014's Iron and Rust from Nomia. Weird band name, I know, Nomia. Unfortunately, I don't know if they're around anymore either. They were friends with the guys in Between Two Skies, though, I remember. Anyway, so let's see here. Empires may have been the bill that I saw them in. Empire. That's what I'm thinking of, actually. Empires were on the bill with them when I saw them. So that was number 6. Number 5. So this is a jazz fusion band that I loved. They only had a couple records. I saw them at the Artist Quarter a few times. Media Addicts Autonomy from 2013, I think. This, oh man, their first record is great, but like Galactic Cowboy Orchestra, they upped it on this one. And they re-recorded a couple of the songs, but the playing is off the charts. It's jazz fusion, but it's like heavy jazz fusion. The saxophone and some of Billy's guitar work is just amazing. Pocket Snake, Whimper, Mr. Nice Guy. It's like there's energy, there's hooks, there's dynamics. Production is really good on this, and fortunately Billy went out to LA and they broke up after this. But yeah, Autonomy, one of my favorite records from the state of Minnesota. If you like jazz fusion, it would be an obvious recommendation. Number 5. Number 4, now we're in the top 4 here. Well, I had to choose a Prince record, of course. And, you know, I've been going through a lot of the Prince records. I could have chose, you know, 1999 or, you know, maybe even the record I just listened to, the Sign of the Times. But I have to go with Purple Rain. You know, it has my favorite Prince song, Computer Blue, and it has all the hits, of course. It has a few others I still enjoy. You know, I mean, is he prog? He's not prog rock, but he's certainly progressive. You can't argue that he was blending a lot of different styles, you know, female, male vocals. Purple Rain was a ballad. It was like a blues ballad. But, I mean, you know, the hits are great. Take Me With You is an earworm. Darling Nikki, Baby I'm a Star, which is a hit, which is a minor hit. I think probably doesn't get mentioned enough. You know, I mean, again, I love Prince. What is this in here? Some sampler. I love Prince, but at the same time, it's like I can't deny this is still his masterpiece. It's a soundtrack for the film, of course. And again, when having Computer Blue on it sort of trumps it as like my favorite Prince record. But I don't know. I need to, once I finish going through this, I should do a special video on Prince to sort of reassess his whole, like the main albums. He's got like, you know, so many albums. He's got like 40 albums, of course. But I'm talking maybe from late 70s all the way maybe through like early 2000s. The proper albums. Maybe at some point if I have the time to do that. So that's number 4. Number 3, now we're getting into the cream of the cream of the crop. The proggiest of the prog for me. Bryce Plays Drums. I had to choose one of their records, and this is their masterpiece, their second record from 2012, Man the Animal Cannon. It's 3 songs. It's structured kind of like Relayer or Close to the Edge. 3 epics. They have a Yes influence, but they also have like the Deer Hunter or Between the Bear and Me influence. They honestly, I'd known them. I heard the previous record a few years before. I couldn't believe how good this album was. Every track worked. The vocals were clever. The use of sort of like effects and freight train blues, kind of the ebbs and flows, the dynamics. The gesture's great. Some of the textures they ended up bringing in here. It was a perfectly composed prog album. I've never understood why more people didn't get into them, but the 2 other records they have are really good as well, but this to me is their best work. And you know the Higgins brothers, you know, and Bryce, the drummer, of course, the other members of the band. I've always loved this record. And it's always going to be a favorite of mine. Man the Animal Cannon from 2012. It's on Bandcamp to stream. I think it's on Spotify as well. So number 2, John Wright's finest work, and he probably wouldn't deny this that sometimes when they recommend records from this band, they have like 9 records. I've always meant to do like a full discography. And they have one that's in the works, I guess. But Lato and Wright's Children's Songs. Of course, Children's Songs was released by Chick Corea. I think he won up Chick Corea. The Children's Songs piece, the suite, that's like 30 minutes long, references so many different things like Zeppelin, Chick Corea, Bartok, I want to say like Nick Drake. There's a bunch of other classical pieces in there. The dynamics are fantastic. It's just weaved and sewn together so well, like Supper's Ready. But then there's the epic Betsy Bell and Mary Gray, which is also, it's like a folk rock masterpiece. It's like the modern day Thick as a Brick, really. And the 2 other tracks, the Broomfield Hill and Wasn't That a Time, are also really good. So this is like their hemispheres, or you know, this is a prog rock masterpiece. It came out 2010. You know, it's folk rock. It's very Jethro Tull influence, very Genesis influence, very Crimson influence. But you know, the vocals fit with the music and the dynamics. Some of the guitar riffs are kind of like a Spock's Beard or Humphreys McGee, or you know, that kind of thing. Even a little Dream Theater-esque. So it's like a little heavier than some of the other stuff. And it's like less is more, even though it's like almost an hour long. Children's Songs from Lato and Wright one of the best records of the last 25 years for sure. And that's why it's number 2. And number 1, well, I had to go with my favorite. I still have to go with my favorite band here in Minnesota. It's Cloud Cult and their masterpiece, Light Chasers. Now, they have many other records, including a record coming out probably in the next few months. A single's coming out next week, actually, on the 14th. But Light Chasers, they kind of brought everything together, and they made it really epic. And they, you know, the songwriting, the riffs, the concept, the recalled themes. It's I mean, they have other records that are kind of conceptual, Cloud Cult, but this is the record I recommend to most people. There's so many moments just like room full of people in your head. You know, I get brought to tears by some of this stuff. You know, there's so much energy. This is the last track. There's so much energy in life. The exploding people. You'll be bright. Running with the wolves. I always get sad. I think about that. Someone running away from home. You know, but you know, I'm never coming back. It's kind of sad to think, but I can understand the sentiment and the story. I mean, you know, and I love Cloud Cult, and they're kind of religious almost to me. They've become that way. I mean, they're not my favorite band, but this to me, it's like, it kind of made me like them even more. I saw them for the first time on this tour. It was just like, got them to sign it, got Sarah to sign it and everything like that. Yeah, I mean, Light Chasers was sort of them. You know, they really worked hard on this record. I mean, it was, you know, they've been taking more time. They were putting out like a record almost every year, but yeah, I mean, the chamber rock. This is chamber rock as fine as I'd put this up with any album from the Deer Hunter, any album from Family Crest. It's that good. It's a classic in progressive chamber rock, modern progressive chamber rock, and progressive art rock. And while again, they have other records I like. In some ways, I like The Seeker. I adore, and I always get to tears when I think about it. I think of the film with it, but this is still to me where they did everything so well on it, and Light Chasers is number one. So I know, like, you know, people don't think of Minnesota for progressive rock, and I know like most of these bands people have not heard of, but thank you for watching anyways. You could, you know, I'm not going to be able to link all of them. Maybe I could try making a Spotify playlist or YouTube playlist and try adding it in there, but me to do that, you know, I'm proud of being from Minnesota. that's probably been repeated ad nauseum, but it's kind of the thing where you like a lot of music from other parts of the country and the world, and it's like, well, why are the bands not making music from here that I love? And so, like, there had to be more, and it's, you know, if I lived in England, if I lived in Portland, or if I lived out east in, like, New York or Philadelphia or something like that, I'd probably have more, like, go-to prog bands or whatever. But, you know, there are bands from here, and there's artists that are, it's just good music, and it's progressive, and so it's just a matter of finding. There's stuff that I haven't even talked about. There's bands like Over Forward, and probably bands I don't even know. Hardcore Crayons. There's a lot of local bands that do prog in this town that, you know, people like to varying degrees. But, yeah, people don't think of prog when they think of Minnesota. They think of the funk Minnesota, Minneapolis sound. They think of Bob Dylan, of course. But I would argue Bob Dylan even was progressive, but especially with Prince and the Minneapolis sound, there was a very progressive element. Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, that stuff, you know, buried within all that dance music and in the arrangements is some progressive elements with really good musicianship, so, and really good songwriting. And that to me is what is progressive. And that's what I look for in music. So, but anyway, thank you for watching. Again, give me your top 5 albums from Minnesota, or your top 5 albums, top 10 albums from where you're from. I'd love to hear about them. I should probably check them out. But again, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.